disappointing, I think, for a lot of people. There's a number of people with their microphones saying, you know, stop the violence, as the other guys are smashing the windows. So, I mean, a few can really kind of wreck it for all.
All is over, nukes are done, get our power from the sun.
Greenpeace was there marching peacefully on the Saturday. We caught up with one of their activists. So, Aspa, can you tell me a little bit about your experience last year and what role you had with Greenpeace?
It started off really great, and halfway through the march I actually unfortunately got sidetracked by some violence that was taking place on the street, and I found it really disappointing. There were people there, I noticed, that were totally disconnected to the protest. They were just on the street, they were walking on Queen Street, they were shopping, they were wandering around aimlessly in shock and horror, being caught in this crossfire. It really felt like they were just caught in crossfire and they just didn't know what to do. And I saw a few people that had to get pulled to the side and get pulled into the buildings, and I think that is tragic.
Yeah, we remember one girl actually, she was just in the bank doing her ATM business. She didn't know that all this rage was all of a sudden coming by, and the window was completely smashed in front of her. Security guard had to take her afterwards. She was just crying and weeping and like so upset. And you could tell she just never saw anything like that before and was definitely not expecting it around the corner. So it just was a really different city, a really different Canada. Were you at all later arrested or killed?
I spent the weekend pretty much riding around, trying to find a safe space to peacefully demonstrate. And to be honest, it was really frustrating because it was non-stop confrontation with police blockades who were just basically asking people to leave. And every time that I encountered a blockade where police were kind of moving people out, they were kettling, and it was like, you either stay or you go, which was the common thing that was happening. I would ask the officers, well, where can I go? Like, where can I go to peacefully protest? Because this is important to me. And the common response that I got many times, it was almost like I was talking to a robot, was there's nowhere for you to go home and watch this on TV. And I heard that numerous times from police officers. And it was just so disempowering to hear that.
Tommy Taylor was not a protester. He was just curious. He was one of 800 unlawful arrests. This is his story.
My name's Tommy Taylor. I'm a theater director and playwright, and last summer at the Toronto G20 summit, I wasn't a protester. I've never been to a protest before in my life, but my fiance and I thought that we were going to go out and just sort of see what was happening. We went out later and we said that we weren't going to get arrested. At that time, it had been shut down by police. We ended up being corralled and kettled in down at the Novotel. There was no violence there. It was peaceful protesters. They were singing "Give Peace a Chance." It was almost like a cliche of a protest, like everyone's sitting down giving the peace symbol. And we were all arrested en masse. Even a couple coming out of the Keg restaurant, they got arrested with everybody as well. It was one of the more insane things that I've seen. The police weren't communicating. They wouldn't tell you anything. They never told anyone to leave. They just arrested everyone. There was no communication from them whatsoever. We ended up being taken to the Eastern Avenue Detention Center. I was locked in a cage with 40 men in a cage built for 10 to 15 people. For 24 hours, never read my rights, never told why I was charged, with officers watching us go to the bathroom with the door off the porta potty. I begged for water until the point where I passed out. The guards would watch the women in their cages go to the washroom and laugh at them when they asked for tampons and say there's too much estrogen in here. I saw guards verbally and physically abusing prisoners in the detention center. This is all somewhere on audio and video. Above every cage there was a small camera in a black pod, and we read something saying we were all going to be recorded. And so this evidence is out there. There is video of officers behaving this way, but at the same time there are officers. I remember at my fiance's cage, she told me about a female officer who came over and she was crying. She's like, I don't know why any of you are in here. I'm sorry, this is terrible, this is so horrible. And they're all crying together. And I had some officers come over and say, you know, I want to get you guys out of here. This is ridiculous. This is, you know, this is chaos here, but I'm just a pea in a pod. I can't help you. So, and after my 24 hours, they didn't charge me. They just threw me out on the street and said, good luck. It's raining cats and dogs out there. And it was one of the more dehumanizing experiences I've had.
Now you back away! You back away!
So what the hell is the Black Bloc? Well, it's a tactic, not a movement, and was first used in Germany in the 80s as a defense against police kicking out squatters, and as a tactic to fight nuclear power. It gained international attention when a group trashed Seattle during the World Trade Organization Summit in 1999, and last year Toronto got a taste of it.
I did actually a lot of research about the Black Bloc right around the time of the G20, and I actually got my hands on a press release which was hilarious, and it said something like, you know, let's go to the streets of Toronto and F shit up and party in the streets and show Toronto cops who owns this place. And it was just hilarious, but it was awful at the same time, just to kind of see the energy that was going into that.
I wonder how many of these Black Bloc people were actually, you know, like police agents, much like when they got busted in Quebec dressing up as these things.
The only way to stop guys like from the Black Bloc from basically ruining the show for everybody is to put these conferences either in the middle of the ocean or the middle of a forest, far away from everything. If there are lots of police around, lots of news cameras, and valuable property to destroy, a few dozen idiots will always come forward and find a way to cause commotion.
And if people are worried about broken windows and upset by that, but not by broken communities in a broken world, then I really question their values.
I don't personally agree with being violent. I mean, civil disobedience, absolutely. That's, you know, if that's something that you choose to do, I completely understand that. But destroying property, destroying police cars, destroying, you know, that whole notion really muddies the whole situation of a peaceful protest. And that's the one thing I seen when I was at G20 is that the majority of protesters who were not part of the Black Bloc were actively saying to them, don't do this. Please don't do this. We're trying to get a message out. Please don't do this.
Peaceful protest! Peaceful protest! Peaceful protest!
Say what you want about the Black Bloc, whether you agree or disagree, they're out there doing something, and most people aren't. So I have to give them props for that.
For those who are mad that anarchists, you know, or whatever you want to call them, smashed up a small portion of Yonge Street, you know, far away from the actual protesters, the more infuriating thing is that police watched them.
It's so hard to peacefully protest when you've got rocks flying over your head, and the violence, it steals the media. It monopolizes what gets covered, and it's really unfortunate because the issues that people that are hoping to get discussed doesn't get covered, and what we end up hearing about is the violence.
It's just ridiculous. This is Canada. You know, what happened? What happened to our country?